This is the 702 open line. We are live on the 702 YouTube page. In fact, I've got some comments that are coming through on the YouTube page. William on YouTube says, Clement, the DA leaders also with the same vigor should be scrutinized. They have been in the Western Cape government for all this time. William, I absolutely agree with you. Where it becomes inconsistent is when there is no similar vigor to scrutinize some of the DA, let's say in this case, DA politicians in the Western Cape. But who is the DA politician in the Western Cape who lives in such a multi-million rand house? Because if there's one that exists and that person is not being investigated, then that is weird. That is inconsistent. I agree with you. But do you know of one who does? I've not seen one. One person once claimed that Helen lives in a house like that. I've actually been to Helen Zilla's house in the Western Cape, not to visit her for tea or anything, but it was to shoot an interview. When I was recording a show for SABC2 last year. It was called 30 Winds of Change. And we were visiting the homes of all these. I mean, we went to Mokweng's house in the Northwest. We went to Dali Tambo's house, all these politicians and people in the judiciary. We went to Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng's house in Cape Town. So we're traveling around the country, and one of the homes we visited was Helen Zilla's home. And trust me, it's the most modest house I have ever seen of any politician. I have never come across any other politician who lives in a modest house like Helen Zilla. You know what car Helen Zilla drives? What car was it? Was it a Corsa? Helen, just outside a garage, she had parked her car, the one she had owned for so many years. You'd probably buy that car for 30,000 rand now. So it's such a modest home, and I'm not suggesting all of the DA politicians live like that. I'm saying if you know of one, William, on YouTube, let me know, because then we can say, but why are we not checking out this one who lives, or John Steenhuisen, or whoever who lives in a house like this, or whose children have got contracts with the Western Cape government? But I agree that if we're not focusing on that, then we're not being consistent as well. On YouTube, Anna also says, hi, Clement, I totally agree. Politicians must be investigated. Their lifestyles are extravagant. South Africans are becoming more and more poorer. Bani, you are calling us from Brakpan. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Clement.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, yeah, sorry, man. I just needed to respond to the lady from Random that called in with regards to politicians using their brains and stuff. And I just quickly went in to check Paul Masatile's age to do a quick test. So he would have been 32 years in politics if we count from 94. At 10,000 rand, both him and his wife would have saved 7.6 million. Compound interest, all of that will take us to 36.8 million. Now, and this is to your point. When we're talking lifestyle audits. Because if you take all of their expenses, school fees, food, rent, rates and taxes, all the works, it is still not going to accumulate to what he currently has. And that's why it is important for us. Who's his family members? Who supports him? And there would be nothing wrong with that. But the close proximity to them doing their business with government would become a problem.
Yeah.
And as you say, who do you pick up a call to and say, listen here, my son is applying for a tender there and there. Please assist him. But we can even take it away from government, Clement. We've seen politicians now with Kenny Kunene and them busy in the underworld. That can also expose some drug dealings. We had Jacob Mamabolo that was doing business with Chinese guys that were selling rhino on. So it's not just about also are they doing business with tenders, but what other illegal activities might they be involved in? And we must stop buying this nonsense from politicians. We must really be consistent and do it for every single politician that is out there.
Yeah.
And that would be my comment. We must just as people think these things through and do the math, because we are ourselves in business and in banking and in accountants and whatever. Just sit down and do the math. When a politician says, I've got 150 million like Gated McKenzie, I'm in the mining industry, for example. I don't want to be all over the place. I've never come across any of his mines. And all of a sudden, his son bought a team, and they've got 1,000 mines that he was talking about the other day. So you've got more mines and Patrice Motsepe. So technically, Capen is more rich than Patrice. And for me, we need to interrogate these things. Because otherwise, if we're just going to accept what politicians tell us, we are doomed.
Yeah, Bunny, sure, calling us there from Brakpan. A number of claims there being made. But I think, yeah, Bunny, your broader point is we need to scrutinize. Guys, I have no problem with a politician who's got children who are doing incredibly well and who are out there in other sectors of the industry. My issue is always going to be with if your child gets a contract from a government, I am going to ask some questions. And you may want to claim that, yeah, but I was not MEC in the province at the time. But you're a senior, like, who doesn't know Paul Mashatile in Gauteng, for instance? Like, Paul Mashatile is a very known figure in Gauteng circles. He's held senior positions in this province, in the ANC, in government. So you may have been arts and culture minister, but do you really think that your child who applies for a tender, that's not going to raise eyebrows? I think as a politician, the minute you choose that I want to serve the public and I'm choosing to accept the calling and the appointment of deputy president or of minister, you must know that that comes with a burden. That burden is that your family is going to be scrutinized differently to other families that are normal out there. You must accept that there's going to be a burden that your family is not going to be allowed to do business with the state. Are you prepared to accept that burden? If you're not prepared to accept it, then stay away from a senior government position and allow your family to continue benefiting from the state. That's fine. It's like when you become a judge. When you become a judge, you accept a lot of sacrifices. There are burdens that you take on. Like, you can't just go around making political statements. That's why they'll take you to the JSC. So there are burdens of responsibility that come with the positions that we occupy. In this case, there are two sons of Paul Mashatile who are linked to a company that was awarded a tender in 2022. The companies were paid a combined 36.4 million rand and are owed 12.6 million rand for work that's already been completed. I think that's done, which is great because in some cases it's worse. Some of the relatives of the politicians get paid monies for projects that are not even completed. In this case, News 24 reports the project was completed, right? This tender was to maintain fire suppression and detection systems at hospitals in Gauteng. Are you saying that we must just look at this and go past this and think, these are Paul Mashatile's sons. Yes, they got 36.4 million rand but it doesn't mean anything. No, we have to scrutinize. We've got to ask serious questions. And maybe, yes, they followed the bidding process which is fine, but we've got to satisfy ourselves because history has taught us to be careful. That's what history has taught us. And Paul Mashatile, I think, has already indicated that he has told his sons not to do business with government again because even he himself realizes that this is suspicious. Do you know how many people have failed lifestyle audits in Gauteng? How many people? 4 or 3. 3 or 4 senior government officials in Gauteng. Panyaza Lesufi has had to let them go because they have failed lifestyle audits. These are people who can't explain where their wealth is coming from. They can't. What does that tell you? If Paul Mashatile says, this property in Cape Town is owned by my son-in-law, and you realize that the son-in-law at some point received the loan from the Gauteng, one of the entities in the Gauteng government, you've got to ask the questions. Okay, how much? Why? What was the bidding process? What happened? Because we've got to satisfy ourselves that a proper process was followed. This person didn't get any advantage over other people just because they are related to a very, very, very senior politician in the province. Tulani, you're in Centurion. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Clement.
Sure.
You disappointed me yesterday, man. I marveled at the word super consultant. And I thought you were going to ask, what is a super consultant? I really was marveling at the term. I've never heard of it before.
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, he was insisting, I'm a super consultant. But two things, Clement. The first thing is with regards to the interview that we had yesterday.
Yeah.
I think the guy regretted the interview in the middle of it. He honestly regretted it. He did not expect you to ask the questions that you asked.
Kanti, what do people expect journalists to do? Like, what do they expect us to do? That we are so dumb that we're just going to say, hey, what's your reaction to this?
I think the insatiable appetite that he has for spotlight and limelight drove him to accept the interview. But in the middle of it, I think he regretted why I actually took this interview on. Because if indeed he is an informer, people that he might have informed on before now know that possibly and maybe they might have suspected him, now know that it might be him. And I think that's one of the reasons why he might be regretting why he took that interview on. But with regard to Paul Mashatile, Clement, I'll be brutally honest with you. I doubt there is a politician that has not done something, and that politician comes from the ANC. I really doubt it. If there is one, I would swallow my words and I'll eat humble pie. But I really, really doubt if there is any. Those are my comments. Thank you.